welcome to a brand new episode of Coming Distractions brought to you by the Nerdpocalypse podcast. I'm your host, Jay. Okay, I'm back to review Super Troopers 2. This is the sequel to the original Super Troopers, which this is 17 years in the making, apparently. Done by the Broken Lizard guys. If you've ever seen, obviously, Super Troopers, Club Dread, Slammin' Salmon, Beer Fest, all those, pretty much all the same actors. This one, much like the first one, is directed by Jay Chandrasekhar, who plays Ramathorn in the Super Trooper movies. So, look, the reason why I'm not going to go through the list of actors and names that you might know and things like that is because if you don't know who the Broken Lizard guys are, they're a comedy troupe. If you don't know who they are and you've never seen any of their movies, this is absolutely not the movie for you. If you did not see Super Troopers 1, don't bother seeing this. There's no point. It's going to feel weirdly foreign to you. You're going to be kind of dropped in the middle of things. If you didn't like Super Troopers 1, this is not the movie for you. However, if you are a fan of Super Troopers or the other Broken Lizards films, this is made for you. This is about as fan servicey of a movie as it gets. I don't say that as a negative. It just is, right? This is made for hardcore Super Trooper fans and people who know all the lines and know the side characters and the main characters and everything else. It is built from the ground up for you. I really liked the original Super Troopers, or I enjoyed it. I shouldn't say I'm like a mega fan or anything, but I certainly enjoyed it, and I like some of the Broken Lizard stuff. So for me, this movie was fine. It's the general premise is that there's the border between Vermont, I think it is, and Canada. There is a discrepancy, and this Canadian town now falls into American territory. So they bring in the guys from Super Troopers 1 to police that town. And so they have this weird rivalry with the Canadian Mounties who used to police the town. So there's a lot of Canadian versus American jokes, some of which land pretty well, actually, because sort of the Canadians, the main Canadian guy, the main Mountie is played by Will Sasso, if you know who he is from like Mad TV. Some of their jokes land pretty squarely on the idea of like how Americans don't have health care or things like that, which are pretty funny, and they're kind of like raw jabs at America. And of course, the jokes about the Canadians are like, oh, you're so nice, and you say sorry a lot and stuff like that. So like if you're into that sort of slapsticky sort of, I would argue very kind of Canadian influenced comedy, even though the Broken Lizard guys aren't Canadian. It has that very that feel. Broken Lizard has always kind of felt like the American version of Kids in the Hall to me. So if you're into that sort of comedy, and again, if you're into this universe that these guys have sort of created, yeah, you're gonna dig it. I would argue, if you're a big fan, this is probably a 4 out of 5. I don't think it supplants the first one, but I don't think it was designed to. It's got a couple of cameos I won't spoil for you, but they're pretty good. They weren't spoiled in the trailer, and they're kind of funny. There's some actors I was like, oh, that's cool that this person's in it. That's kind of great. Look, if you're not there's not much to tell about this movie without saying this is not for people to just go to the theater and go, hey, that trailer looked interesting. Like, if you're not already in that wheelhouse, just skip it. Just absolutely skip it. But again, if you are a Broken Lizards fan, I think they're going to give you what you want. It does feel like their shtick is getting a little tired, and I'd kind of like to see them try something a little different. Again, this movie is 17 years in the making, so some of the jokes feel a little like, yeah, I mean, I know, I get it. That was from 2001 kind of thing. So, but there are some moments where they kind of step out of their comfort zone and do a couple of other jokes and some running gags that really work. I mean, there were a couple kind of like really laugh out loud moments for me. And then there was a lot of it that just fell a little flat. So all in all, I would probably give it a 2.5. I thought it was fine. Again, it brings you back into that universe. So if you enjoy that universe, you're going to have a good time. Otherwise, it's a complete skip. I wouldn't even bother. So that's it, 2.5, and we'll see you guys next time. you're watching the Nerdpocalypse YouTube channel, make sure you click that button to subscribe and check out our weekly podcast where we talk about movie, TV, news, tech, and weird stories from around the internet.